I remember how you helped me see that I was someone, that there was something good in me. Oh, you changed my life.
Focusing on the present.
Look at all the things I do.
Wow, 20 years of SABE. That's awesome. That's awesome. You know, it's pretty funny because I'm looking around this room and I'm thinking 20 years of SABE, self-advocates becoming empowered. So do we need to think about whether or not this is self-advocates being empowered? Because it sure feels to me like there's a lot of power in this room and we're past becoming. We've got the power. You guys are the champions at the heart of our work. And I'm so glad that you're all here in Kansas City. This is incredible. It's amazing to look at this room. I know some of you I'm new to. As Chester mentioned, I've been with ADD since the beginning of April, so I'm kind of new to this job. I'm pretty humbled and proud to be serving as the commissioner for the Administration on Developmental Disabilities. I'm going to talk a little bit today about some of the things that we're doing and talk about my perspective on the work that you do, and talk about how I'm hoping we'll all continue to work together. So, for many of you who've heard me speak, I like to tell some stories sometimes. My kids roll their eyes. You know how that goes. I'm sure many of you roll your eyes at your parents. But many years ago, when I was a young mom, I participated in Partners in Policymaking. Now, how many of you are Partners grads? Yes. Some excellent, okay. And how many of you know what Partners in Policymaking is? Okay, so let me just really quickly, for those of you who maybe this is your first SABE conference, or maybe you don't have partners in your state right now, Partners in Policymaking is an amazing, amazing opportunity in which self-advocates and family members come together and spend 8 or 9 months together, one weekend a month, learning about systems and supports and how to be good advocates, and learning about ideas like self-determination. So as a mom, one of the things that I did is I participated in Partners in Policymaking, and then I actually ended up being the program coordinator in Oregon on Partners. And so Partners is a pretty important part of my background. But so back when I was a young mom and I was first building my own advocacy skills and my own knowledge in the Partners program, it was really the first time in my adult life that I developed real and meaningful relationships with people with disabilities. Really, it was, and I'm not proud to say that. I'm actually kind of embarrassed to say that. But I think it reflects what happened in my generation, in that I didn't go to school with kids with disabilities. I didn't have people with disabilities in the places that I have worked. I didn't have people with disabilities visible in my community. And Partners really changed that and opened my eyes. And for the first time, I had friends and colleagues and teachers that were people with disabilities in my life. So one day, when I was at Partners, I asked my friend Ann, and at the time my daughter was about 3, I asked my friend Ann, who is a wonderful self-advocate, what her advice might be about how I could raise my daughter to be a strong self-advocate. And what she told me was really, really simple. She said 2 things. She said it's about relationships, and she said it was about letting go and letting risk. Let go and let risk. I said, okay, what does that mean? It's really hard to imagine when you're a mom and your child is 3 or 4 years old. And mostly what you're worried about is making sure that they don't do the crazy things that 3 and 4-year-olds do, like, put raisins up their nose, or see what happens when they take their sister's favorite toy and drop it in the toilet. You know, so like risks at that point are really kind of an odd concept when you're just trying to get through your day. So I said, well, how am I going to do that? Let go and let risk. Think about relationships. And what she said was, well, it's actually really simple, but it's not easy. She said, give her the same rights and responsibilities as her sisters. Let her try new things. Well, maybe not the raisin trick, but let her try other things. Encourage her to find her own passions. Make sure she has love in her life. And let her do things even when it scares the hell out of you. Let go and let risk. So I said, okay, so how am I going to know if I'm doing this right? Because, you know, it's pretty easy to make sure that the raisins aren't up the nose and the stuffed animals aren't in the toilet. But this relationship stuff and this stuff that's really, really scary to me as a mom is hard. And so she said, well, here's the deal. I'm going to check back with you 15 years or so when your daughter is 18. And if you tell me that she's never been in trouble, that she's perfect and wonderful and well-behaved, I will question that, because teenagers shouldn't ever be described that way. And you will have made mistakes. And I will ask you if she has friends and love in her life. And if you can't look me in the eye and say yes, then you also have not helped with relationships, love, risk, and letting go. So then she stopped, and she and I, you know, so now I'm like, oh gosh, I'm never going to be able to do this. So she stopped, and she said, you know, every teenager finds a way to get themselves into trouble. And every teenager can use that to make friends. Sometimes it may be ignoring the little stuff, like when she blows off a curfew or she talks back to you. She needs to learn to follow the rules, but she also needs to learn how to break the rules, especially the ones that don't make sense. And it's your job as a mom to help her know who she is so she has those friends. Make sure that she has the confidence to explore, to make mistakes, sometimes break the rules. And as she grows into a young adult, get out of the way. Get out of the way. Support her and let her lead. Help her build interdependence as well as independence, and so that her relationships are based on mutual respect and love and belonging that goes both ways. Make sure she has social capital so she can take risks. My friend Ann is pretty smart. So I think as we're talking today and over the next couple of days, these are some of the things that I think we're still struggling with. 20 years after the founding of SABE, how do we make sure we all have meaningful relationships in our lives? How do we, the family members and the allies and the supports, get the heck out of the way and let you lead? You're doing a phenomenal job, sometimes despite us. And how do we assist you to pursue an agenda of self-determination and empowerment while acknowledging that we all need each other? We're all interdependent. We all need support. I couldn't be standing here today if I didn't have people supporting me every single day, regardless of whether or not we have a disability. So we need to continue to think about these issues together, and at ADD, we're here to work with you on all of these things. So ADD, how many of you feel like you know who ADD, who is this woman standing up there talking about ADD? The Administration on Developmental Disabilities. Do you all know who ADD is? Can you raise your hand if you feel like you know what ADD is or who we are or what the heck we do? Okay, so maybe I'll take just a second and talk about ADD, because, you know, I think it's important to understand why I'm standing here. So there's the DD Act, the Developmental Disabilities Act, is a Bill of Rights that demands that the Administration on Developmental Disabilities supports a network of programs whose, and I'm going to read from the Act right now, whose role is to assure that individuals with developmental disabilities and their families participate in the design of and have access to needed community services, individualized supports, and other forms of assistance that promote self-determination, independence, productivity, and integration and inclusion in all facets of community life. So that's a pretty big thing to ask us to do. But we have a lot of great opportunities, in part because the way that the DD Act does this is it gives us this phenomenal network of people who actually do all the work, and then we just get to look good. So that network is made up of the DD councils. How many of you know what the DD councils are? Okay, so the DD councils, there's one in every state. Many of you may be here with your DD council or supported by your DD council, or may sit on your DD council and may be a member of the DD council. So the DD councils in each state are charged with developing systems change and supporting systems change and capacity building efforts that help with self-determination, integration, and inclusion. The DD councils every single DD council in the country supports self-advocacy efforts, in part because the DD Act requires them to. But they've also, long before the requirement, the DD councils have been active supporters of the self-advocacy movement. How many of you know what the protection and advocacy agencies are? The P&As, the lawyers. So the DD Act also supports the P&As, and the P&As are the folks who help us out with making sure that our legal rights are protected. Sometimes that means that they help us by writing letters. Sometimes that means they help us by suing people and going into court. And sometimes that means that they help us stay safe when someone is hurting us or abusing us or stomping on our civil rights. The P&As recently have been doing a lot of work around seclusion and restraint issues and making sure that kids in schools aren't getting hurt by seclusion and restraint. And they've also been working pretty hard on Olmstead implementation, which is making sure that people actually can live in community as the Supreme Court says they should have the choice to do. Okay, how many of you know what the UCEDs are? The University Centers on Excellence in Developmental Disabilities. Okay? So the UCEDs are our universities. They're our researchers, they're our trainers. They help us with making sure that all of the wonderful people who support people with disabilities know what they're doing, sometimes. They do a good job. They look at service, they work on service, they work on interdisciplinary training, they work on research, data, dissemination of information. We actually have two really great special projects that we're doing with the UCEDs right now that I wanted to mention. One is related to college opportunities, post-secondary opportunities for students with intellectual disabilities, and making sure that we have places in the country where students with intellectual disabilities can go to college. And ADD and the UCEDs have been helping universities and colleges understand how they can do that and making sure that they have some of the resources to support people to go to college, which is pretty amazing. We haven't had those opportunities. I hope my daughter, who's only 13, has that opportunity if we survive the IEP process for the next 7, 8 years. You guys know what I'm talking about. The last piece of the DD Act that has money, there are other pieces that we don't have money on, so I'm not going to talk about those because, as you guys know, sometimes it's hard to get things done when we don't have money. The last piece of the DD Act is called the Projects of National Significance. And the Projects of National Significance are really where we kind of think about what should we be doing next. And where should we be going, and how do we make sure we have the information that we need? Currently, ADD uses our PNS money for family support demonstration projects, data collection, supporting technical assistance and training activities, and self-advocacy activities. So those are the kind of core things that we exist to do. But then we're also part of the administration. We're part of the executive branch of the government, and we have a critical role to play in that capacity. So right now it's a pretty exciting time to be there working for President Obama. A couple months ago, we celebrated the 20th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and yep. And the president, in doing that, reiterated his commitment to supporting not only the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law and the spirit of equality, of opportunity. He signed an executive order directing all of us who work in the federal government to lead by example on employment issues, by hiring people with disabilities, and I'm proud to say that ADD, since I have started, the only hires we have made so far have been people with disabilities. And they're really, and more importantly, they're really, really smart, and they're really, really hardworking, and they're going to do a good job for you guys. The other things that are happening really quickly in the administration are really focused on some pretty important issues for our community. The president's agenda includes a renewed effort by the Department of Justice to really go after Olmstead implementation, to make sure that people can live in homes and communities of their choosing. Over at HUD, at the Department of Housing and Urban Development, earlier this year, a whole bunch of money went out in additional vouchers to make sure that we had better access to affordable housing, specifically for people with disabilities, not just the senior community. You guys don't have to clap after each one of these. I appreciate it, and it's really nice. But I know these guys have important things to say, too, and I don't want to be up here all day. You got more important things to think about. At the Department of Ed, they're working on these post-secondary transition programs for students with intellectual disabilities. And at HHS, where ADD is, the implementation of the Affordable Care Act has really been the thing dominating the agenda, which was really going to make a big difference in breaking down barriers to accessing quality health care, affordable health care for people with disabilities. And then across all of the agencies, we've got a very cool initiative that was launched in June of 2009 called the Community Living Initiative, in which we are supporting the ideas and the values that really have stemmed from your work and the DD community's work around what does community living look like, and how are we going to make sure that it's informing policies and initiatives across the federal government. So at ADD, besides kind of keeping the grants going and getting everything else going, we're really working hard, really hard since I've been there, to connect with all of you, to really hear from the experts, hear from the people who matter, which are people with disabilities, family members, and their allies. And so a couple of things I wanted to mention that we've done specifically to try and are in the process of doing to make sure that we're informed and we can do good work is related to some of our outreach efforts. We did a survey this past summer about what we should be thinking about as we look at projects of national significance next year. We had about 2,600 people respond to that survey. A lot of family members, a lot of self-advocates. We're in the process of putting that information together. We established an email list. I know you guys have been doing this stuff for years, but ADD didn't have an email list. You were way ahead of us. And so we now have a place, if those of you who use the internet and use email want to get information directly from ADD, I'll spell this out so it can go up on the cart, but it's you can send a note to ADD_information, INFORMATION, at acf.hhs.gov. And I know that's not an easy one to remember, I apologize. But you can also find this on our website. But if you send an email to that address, you can get emails directly from ADD and kind of hear about what's going on with us and hear about different announcements from the administration. We also recently announced that we are starting a process to build a strategic plan for the administration on developmental disabilities. We're calling this series of meetings and process Envisioning the Future. And the ideas that we generate in these meetings are going to inform what we work on next. Because we need to know what's important. Should we be focusing our energy on employment, or should we be focusing our energy on housing, or should we be thinking about self-advocacy, or should we be thinking about all those things at once? So we're going through and establishing these regional meetings. You can learn more about those meetings. I'm going to give you another website here at www.envision, ENVISION, 2010-2010.net. And so we're going to have these meetings, and you can go to the website. You can also submit comments there. It's kind of moving us into this century where people, I know, do this on the blogs all the time. We're still learning how to do it in the federal government. But you can submit comments, and we've asked people to think about questions across the lifespan. We've asked a question about children. We've asked a question about adults in terms of ensuring essentially the goals of the ADA, and what should we be prioritizing. We asked a question about aging, and then we asked a question about caregiving and allies and supports and what we should be thinking about there. And because I think that as part of our strategic planning process and our thinking about the reauthorization of the DD Act and our efforts moving forward, self-advocacy is absolutely critical at the heart of what we're doing, a core part of the critical priorities for ADD. I'm happy to announce today that ADD has also committed significant financial resources to embark on a series of regional meetings focused on self-advocacy across the country that will take place in early 2011. We're just in the early planning stages. We've been working with Chester and SABE and other self-advocate leaders to create a plan for this process. It's really being driven by the network and the self-advocates. So in partnership, ADD sees the purpose of these self-advocacy summits to do 4 things: to explore and document the recent accomplishments of the self-advocacy movement, to look at the current self-advocacy efforts in each state from the bottom up, not the top down, now what we see going on here, including what do the organizations look like? Do they have enough resources? What are the roles and responsibilities and functions? And is there enough leadership and capacity going on in every state? We hope to determine what we should do next and plan to take some of those steps to strengthen and enhance the self-advocacy, the development of the self-advocacy movement. And last, we see recommendations being developed for future policy, funding, and activities to go into a report to ADD, including recommendations for the reauthorization of the DD Act, so that we can get to this conversation and what is the role of ADD in supporting self-advocacy. So I know it sounds kind of boring right now. It's a series of meetings, but at the end of the day, I hope that the next time we all gather together, or long before that, we'll be able to say that we had hundreds of self-advocates, maybe tens of thousands of self-advocates if you guys can all do a good job, participate and inform us at the federal government on what we need to do to make sure that the self-advocacy movement grows, is strong, and has the resources it needs to evolve. So we're working with SABE, and we're working with the National Youth Leadership Network, the DD Councils, the PNAs, and the USEDs to plan this process, and we're really excited about the opportunity. And I know that SABE will be sharing more information as we have it, and we are just asking you at this point to stay tuned. So really quickly, those are some of the things that we're doing at ADD. And we're really glad to be partnering with SABE on so many different efforts. We really need to work together to achieve self-determination and interdependent relationships so that people can live in supportive communities where they are welcomed and happy and loved. And where we can all take chances together, right? So back to my daughter, because I have to finish out the story. So now my daughter's 13, so she is an adolescent, God help me. It's a bigger problem than the fact that she has an intellectual disability, let me tell you. So when I get that call in about 5 years, when my friend Ann calls me and asks me that question, what am I gonna say? Did I let her take risks? Did she have friends? Did she find a little trouble as a teenager? So just a few months ago, Zoe spent an hour in detention. Not because she did anything really, really awful, thankfully, but because she was with a group of middle school girls, and they decided to spend lunch in an unauthorized area of the school because they wanted time together and they didn't want any adults around. And so she came home with this notice, "Mom, I got detention." I had a stern look on my face. "Zoe, why did you get detention?" "I wasn't where I was supposed to be at lunch." And while I had to keep my mom face on as she told me this, inside I was full of smiles. Because she had chosen an appropriate rule to break. She had done it as part of community and part of being a group of friends. And I'm gonna be able to look Anne in the eye and said, "See, sometimes she took risks." We're all letting go. We're all learning to take risks. We're all learning to build relationships and building community. And I'm really glad to be here with you for this couple of days as we talk about those issues. And ADD is here to support you moving forward in making sure that you have those opportunities. So thank you very much.